We'll bang the gavel again. Welcome to the meeting. We will call it to order. It's at our June 13th regular council meeting. First order of business is to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those vote no. Agenda stands as presented, adopted as presented. And we'll ask Kip Turner to give us our road update.
Good evening. It's good to be back. I'll be fairly brief, but just a few update notes. Most importantly, of course, last Friday we did get traffic in a 4-lane pattern out to Green Hill Road. That'll allow us to keep traffic moving good on the weekends, but as you can tell, if you're out there the last couple of days, we will be putting some of those lane closures in during the week, and that'll let us finish some of the shoulder and backfilling the curb work, and we'll have some driveways to tie in with some asphalt and some of those various things. So hopefully traffic, though, will move better through there now that some of the barrels and things are out of the way. And so far from what I've observed since last Friday, it seems like it has moved through there pretty good, especially in the Green Hill area and below where it goes from the 4-lane back down to the 2-lane. But so far, so good. Crews are also continuing to install the remaining caps and aluminum rail on the retaining wall in front of the golf course, as well as I believe the crew moved in there either the end of last week or first of this week to start the preparation for the staining of that wall. So hopefully soon you'll start to see some color get added to that wall along the golf course. There's also still some activity going on at the Holiday Inn. There was some additional drainage work and wall work that you may recall that DOT had asked us to do. We're kind of picking up the pace on that now that we've gotten some of the major things done out towards the Green Park Inn. So now we'll start focusing back on some of those odds and ends things that we need to wrap up on this end of town. And the Holiday Inn area is one of those, as well as the drainage at the furniture store. They completed that drainage, I think on Saturday. So now we can, in the near future, get in there and finish the sidewalk and the driveway aprons in that area also. Let's see, below the Rock Road, where they've been doing the excavation in the curve, that's in preparation for the retaining wall to get the appropriate width for the roadway in that area. So that work is coming along nice, and I think once it takes shape, you get a good idea of where the width for the road is coming from. I've had a lot of questions about that curve and how we're going to get the road through there, but the wall that's going in now is the answer to that. Also, the wall below Cone Orchard has continued well. I'm anticipating maybe 2.5 weeks. Hopefully that wall will get close to wrapping up. Also, we've continued to do paving down the mountain as we did on Friday and Saturday both. And we do have a traffic shift planned for later this week that will be from Cone Orchard up towards the Blowing Rock sign on the southern end of town. And that will shift all the traffic over to the future northbound lanes. That will then allow us to begin the rock stabilization work on the existing cut slopes down the mountain. And again, that's some additional work that DOT's added to the project to better stabilize those existing slopes. So the driller, they're actually, Jensen is the name of the company. They are from Oregon, and they actually moved in this week, so they're preparing for that. So there'll be a lot of activity going down the mountain also in the near future. We began guardrail today. The guardrail started at Green Hill Road, and we're working our way down towards Cone Orchard Road with guardrail. There's also a couple of other minor places in town still yet to receive guardrail, one being just north of Canyons, and the other being just north of the retaining wall that I was mentioning along the golf course. Just very short sections of guardrail, not any major long runs anyway. And then also down below the Blue Ridge Vista condos, we got a lot of asphalt base down there on Saturday, so we're getting close to beginning some curb and gutter work, even further down the mountain, to start tying to some of that we completed last fall. So those are the major things that are going on, and the weather holds out. Hopefully, I'll have a good report next month.
Thank you, Kip.
All right, good to see you.
Okay, next item will be approval of minutes.
I make a motion, we approve minutes from our May 9th regular meeting, May 31st, and June 1st budget work sessions.
Thank you, Ray. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Being none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote no. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go into the public hearing for the budget fiscal year 2017-18, and I'll turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and citizens. I'm wondering, my first budget session here in Blowing Rock, and you must be thinking, has this guy lost his mind? What kind of manager did you bring in here? Somebody who would come in and, having been here less than 6 months, would propose a tax increase. And I come to you saying that I am a realist, and it would be dishonest of me to have come to council and not to have recommended that increase. The last thing I want is for us to get to the end of the year and have people wondering why we didn't have enough money to do the things that we put in the budget. So I'm going to explain a little bit about why we have what we have in there. We have cover some topics of the process of the budget, what our priorities are, our revenue streams, our expenses, and then give you some of the highlights. The budget process is not just something where I sit down at a desk and we start putting numbers together and I say, Nicole, work this out for me. There is a process to it. We had meetings with town council and department heads. We had individual meetings with department heads. Then we had budget work sessions. I eventually come up with a proposed budget, which I gave to council at their May council meeting. And then we had budget workshops, and we address the things that are in those workshops and see if there are needs for changes, because the thing that I am foremost charged with is making sure that I work and act on the priorities of the town council whom you elected. So that's step one. Our priorities, these are in no particular order. Maintain a fund balance of at least 50%. Maintain an adequate and motivated workforce. Provide desired and needed services for our citizens. Improve the infrastructure of Blowing Rock. We're making a lot of headway. Whatever we propose has to be economically feasible. It's got to be physically responsible. Whatever we do, whatever money we plan to spend needs to be advancing us towards the goals of the town and the town council. It should be moving us forward towards what our comprehensive plan says, according to the citizens, are our goals. We'll start with the general fund. I know it's going to be, well, I don't know, maybe it shows up a little bigger than I thought. You can see that our general fund revenues are a little over $8 million. And they're broken into categories. You don't have to try to read them here, but you can see the majority of that is obviously coming from property taxes. And then our second large chunk comes from local sales tax, and then other revenues. The next slide has these broken down by percentages. 51.8% of the revenue the town of Blowing Rock takes in comes from ad valorem taxes. 19.9% comes from the gross amount we receive from the county for state sales tax. 16.9% comes from other sources. A lot of those are state sources, franchise fees, and all kinds of state collected local revenues. We've got state collected local taxes of 5.8%. Occupancy tax amounts to 4.8% of our revenue stream. and very small contribution, at least in the budget. It's always been more than that, but 0.8% from our ABC distribution. Obviously, for a balanced budget, expenditures need to be exactly the same amount as our revenues. So you can see we've got several big categories. We've got central government, we've got police department, fire department, street department. And I think as you look around town, you can see areas where these departments are being funded, and you can see the work that is progressing throughout the town. So obviously 48 million, a little over $8 million on that. This slide shows you the property tax per municipality of our closest neighbors. Ours, obviously, if this budget were approved, would not be 34 for this upcoming year, but through 16, 17, 34 cents on the 100 valuation. Boone is at 41 cents, Seven Devils is at 51 cents, and Beech Mountain is at 73.2 cents. Now, a lot of you know that I was at Seven Devils and Beech Mountain. You see those two had the highest taxes. That did not have anything to do with me, because we did not raise taxes at either of those places the whole time I was there. Part of the reason we needed a tax increase, we're coming off of a slump. This slide shows you our tax base change. And these three red areas right here are red because those are negative. And I put them above the line because if I put them below the line, they interfere with down here. But you see we had negative growth, negative tax base in 2012-13. We had negative in 14-15. And we had negative projected for 17-18. There are a lot of reasons for this. We've had some properties that were taxable that have ended up in the, as public property. We've got properties that were taken along the highway. So our tax base has actually shrunk. We don't anticipate that there's going to be much increase. We've got projects that have been proposed. One of those projects just recently, I don't know about from a standpoint of citizens being happy about a project being built, but from a tax base standpoint, which is what I look at, the more tax base we have, the better, because the more revenue we have. So you see that we've got an interesting situation there with our tax base. The value of new construction, this is through the year 2016, and you can see we've come down. Back in 2006 and 2008, things were they were going a little more steady, but you can see what happened here 2009, 10, and 11. Then we had a spurt here, and this spurt was because of Chestnut Ridge. And then 14, 15, 16, they've been coming down. And I think the numbers, when we get 2017, you're going to see them fairly flat. The town voted for a general obligation bond in a referendum to move forward with borrowing money and working on certain projects. This represents phase one of the GO bond. We have not completed everything in the first phase of the GO bond, but most of the transportation portion is complete. We still have parks and rec money, and we still have some water and sewer that both are going to be in the works to finish out phase one. We had a meeting yesterday regarding phase two. Phase two is to borrow $2.75 million. This, if you recall, this overall was a $13 million bond referendum. It was $9 million towards transportation, $2 million towards water, $1 million to sewer, and $1 million to parks and rec. So in this upcoming fiscal year, we're looking at borrowing money for phase two. And then phase three is on out in year 2020. As I said, voters overwhelmingly approved the GO bond. There were 4 different issues, and the lowest vote for any was 72.9%, if I'm not mistaken. Don't hold me to that, I'm not looking at my notes. The GO bond allows for much needed work to commence that if the town had looked at doing all of the projects that needed to be done and done it, let's do one this year, we would still be in the same boat, but we would be way, way far out before we could actually get those done. So this allows a lot of that needed work to go ahead and be dealt with, and it turned out, and I know this council knew that, it turned out to be a great idea because the interest rates are hard, they can hardly be beat. You know, we're at that first round, we were at 2%, and we're not being promised anything for second phase, but we're hearing rates that are gonna be somewhat similar, we think, for our second phase. The GO bond authority is only good for 7 years unless we get an extension, and it's only possible to get an extension out to 10 years. So there had been some suggestions that maybe we should slow down and defer second phase, but we're on a timeline, and we've got to stay within that timeline. We are already accruing bond interest. So we've already got borrowed money out there. And so we are looking at the second thing, 1 cent of the increase of this 3% proposed increase goes towards bond debt service reserve, so that we will have money to start paying those payments when they come due without having to, hopefully next year, say, oh, we've got to go up 3 cents again because we have to pay for these things that have already started. 2 cents in the original bond paperwork, and I'm trusting all of you here and you're interested, you probably were at the GO bond meetings as well. In that initial paperwork, there was a proposal of 5% interest, 10% interest increase over the 10-year period, 2% at a time for 5 years. So if things hold like they are now and interest rates stay low, it is very doubtful that the town will have to go to that 10-cent increase. At that time, you started at 34 cents. So that would be taking you to 44 cents per 100 if that 10-cent increase was necessary. But again, I don't think, at least the way it looks right now, it doesn't look like it will be necessary. We'll know as time goes on. No crystal balls. We're attacked from about every direction you can be attacked for, it seems like, in the municipal and county government realm as well. But the state wants our money. And they're not real content with us keeping the money that we feel like is ours. We're losing, and this is a county decision, but the town is losing about $106,000 proposed this year due to the change that the county asked for from our sales tax distribution. In 2012-13, there was a decision made to switch the county sales tax distribution from per capita to ad valorem. And per capita, that means your distribution is based on what your population is, and ad valorem says it's based on how much value the town has in tax. So when they switched from per capita to ad valorem, the town gained a good bit of money because of that new distribution. The original formula was to hold Watauga County harmless, so by doing that, they were going to lose a lot of money, and they couldn't, I won't say they couldn't, they probably couldn't with budget constraints, but they were certainly not willing to give all that money to the towns and them be out several $1 million. So they worked out a formula by which the town would reimburse the county a certain percentage of the increase we were getting because of their willingness to change that method. We had been repaying them 60% of everything that they were sending us, above and beyond the amount that we had previously been receiving for per capita. This year, they said, our revenue's going down, we're getting ready to go in the hole, we've got to change the distribution. They changed it to 70%. So they asked Blowing Rock, Beach Mountain, and Seven Devils to give back 70% of what that extra money they were sending us. That is where this comes from. We lose approximately $106,000 in that formula. The state has projected that sales tax revenues are going to increase statewide. They projected 4.5% over last year. The North Carolina League of Municipalities also projected 4.5. We would love to believe that. We would love to believe it's 5.5 or 6.5, but being good stewards and cautious, we based our sales tax increase on 3%. So hopefully we will see not as much hurt here as this indicates. And if that sales tax revenue increases, maybe that will be 100,000, or maybe it'll be 90,000 instead of 106. But we can't count on it. There's been no appreciable increase in the tax base to offset the properties that have been removed from the tax base. That's that slide I showed you where we had negative. And one thing, it's interesting that a lot of people think that towns and county governments are pretty much free to do whatever they want. And we absolutely are not free to do anything other than what the state legislature gives us the authority to do. So we can think of a great idea to build revenue, but if we can't get that approved at the legislature, it doesn't matter how good an idea it is, we can't do it. So we're kind of hamstrung. Towns are creations of the state, and they're limited. We just can't do a thing that the legislature doesn't authorize. Looking at the water and sewer fund, our enterprise fund, it's approximately $2.5 million. Most of that revenue is coming from water and sewer charges, and got several other things that contribute to that. Miscellaneous income, and again, being a balanced budget, the expenditures have to equal exactly what the revenue stream is. So you can see the 51% of the expenditures are in administration and billing, and 30% in plant operations, and 19% in field operations. I don't know if you can see this or not. I wanted to do a comparison. This proposed budget increases the millage rate from 3 cents, from 34 cents to 37 cents. Over in this column, these are house values, 100,000 through 1.5 million. I skipped a few. 100,000 to $1 million, and then go to $1.5 million. Here's Blowing Rock. At our proposed rate of 37 cents, a $100,000 house would be $370 and $200, $740, and I'm not going to read those all the way down, but you can see what the effect is. And then here in Blowing Rock, the proposed increase results in the following. A home valued at $200,000 would increase by $60 a year with this proposal. A home valued at $500,000 would increase by $150, so it would increase from $1,700 to $1,850. I've done the same thing here for Watauga County. They have the lowest rate of anybody across here, 35.3 cents with their increase. Right here is Caldwell County. They're at 63 cents. Avery County at 44.72. Watauga at 57. And I know these don't make a lot of difference. I just wanted you to see some comparisons. Boone's 41 cents, Beach Mountain 73, Lenore 58, Hickory. If I take all of those and average them, the average increase across all those entities is 54 cents. Right here you can see the average on $100,000 all across there for all of those entities. $100,000 average is $539. I call your attention there. Ours, even with the increase, is $370. If I go down here to $500,000, Blowing Rocks is $1,850. If I come across the line here, the average for all of those entities is $2,700 per year in taxes. So while we're asking and recommending, proposing a tax increase, and I know that raising the amount of tax doesn't make up for the fact that nobody wants a tax increase. I understand that. I don't want a tax increase. I don't want to recommend a tax increase here that these council people have to make a decision on. It's tough on them too. But when you compare us to other entities, we're in really good shape. Some of the, if we look at Blowing Rock and Watauga together, on 100,000, I know we don't have many of those. I guess I need to go up 200,000. We're looking at $1,446 for county and Blowing Rock taxes combined. That's some of the lowest that you'll find in the entire state. Some of the highlights of this budget. There is a nominal increase in water and sewer rates. They go from $43 to $44 for both water and sewer. That's bi-monthly. That's 50 cents per month increase for water, 50 cents increase per month for sewer. And if you use more than 5,000 gallons per billing period, there's a 25-cent increase per 1,000 gallons. This proposed budget implements the final phase of the cost and pay study, which the council authorized, I guess, 4 years ago. The study revealed that town employees were lower paid than their counterparts in other towns, and in an effort to rectify that, they set out a plan to bring them up to where the company recommended they should be over a 4-year period. This is the 4th and final year of that cost and pay study increase. Also, there's a 2.45% cost of living increase, and that's based on the urban worker, Southern urban worker. It's very similar to the CIP that's used for your Social Security Index, but it's a little more accurate for rural America. We have reduced our staff and administration. We're not constantly adding all the time. We asked for a decrease in staff in the administration department. They were very willing to give that to us. So we went down by 1. We are asking to add 1 new Parks and Recreation employee. And frankly, we're pretty much paying for that person already because we're paying it in overtime and comp time. And we're only getting half a person for that. So we can get a whole person and only pay a half or more. More highlights. Thank you. We are transferring 1 Public Works employee to Parks and Rec, which leaves a vacated position in Public Works, actually in our sanitation department, so that would net 1 additional person. We have a net incremental increase in sales tax revenue due to the redistribution that took place in 13-14, and this council and prior management wisely chose, since we can't count on that additional sales tax money that's going to be coming in every year, we can't count on it coming in every year because at the drop of a hat, the county commissioners can change that distribution formula. They can change that on April 30th, by April 30th, and that change goes into effect on July 1st. We're usually pretty good ways into the budget by the time that happens, and you talk about some scrambling if they take that away. So rather than put that into recurring cost, the council wisely chose to say we're going to use that money as though we're not going to have it next year in case we don't. So we're going to use it for one-time purchases. Another highlight of this budget is that it provides for automated meter infrastructure for water meters, and the installation cost for those water meters is included in the proposed budget. I don't know how many of you've heard of this. We're going to hopefully have a person here from the company at our July meeting, so I hope we'll have this crowd back again so that you can get educated on automated metering infrastructure. It provides for monitoring capabilities that you don't currently have and leak detection. Right now, many of you would find out you had a leak when you get your bill. And you'd say, what? That's way higher than we usually are. This metering will allow you to go in to a dashboard on your computer, and you can look and see the usage from your house for every hour, every day. And one of the ways that this has been really helpful is that in a lot of instances, when people have no idea they have a leak, even though it may be small, let's say your usage maybe is 4,000 gallons every 2 months, but you're using 5,000 because you got a 1,000 gallon leak every 2 months. You wouldn't know about it, but when you look at that dashboard and see that you used 1,000 gallons over 15 or 30 days, and it came between midnight and 6 a.m., and you say, wait, I wasn't enough then. You'll know. So it's a really good thing that we're hoping the AMI will be implemented, and like I said, we hope to have a speaker here to address that at the next meeting so that you can see the benefit for yourself. The AMI funding plan charges each account holder for the meter head, and in that process we have about 1,400 dated meters that we'll have to replace. This is something that, whether we were looking at AMI metering or not, we're going to have to change meters out over a period of time. So this will go ahead and address those. The older a meter gets, the worse it registers. So we're hopeful that that is one way it'll pay for itself. We're going to provide, it is proposed that we will provide 3 different mechanisms for the meter heads to be paid for, and we'll be addressing that in the next meeting as well. This budget also provides for several capital expenditures for new equipment and for some building repairs. 2 that I didn't get up here, and I should have. We know that Blowing Rock citizens are entitled to good fire and rescue and medical response. And this budget incorporates 6 new full-time fire positions. And you're going to say, oh no, that's a lot more money. That money that will pay for those positions is a pass-through. It will be coming through the fire department, through the fire district, and the fire district will be reimbursing the town for those employees and their benefits. So that's 6 new employees that every town member will get the benefit from, but it's being provided for through the fire district. And that's all I have at this time. I want to say thank you to the council. It's been great to work with, and thank you to Nicole Norman, who has been outstanding. She's done a great job. Thank you so much. And for other staff, and we've had some citizen input as well, so we appreciate that. I know that information like this does not come easy, and it's, even though it's not a huge amount, it's a big deal, and I understand that. And I understand that you've had increases the last couple of years, and you're probably thinking, where's this going to end? The citizens did vote for the GO bonds, though. And you said, we want things changed, we want things corrected, we want things improved, and that's what this does. So we have some that's going into operational costs with more employees, and bringing our employees up to a competitive wage. And then we have all of the money in it. If you're fortunate enough to be on one of those roads that's already been redone, that nice smooth asphalt is great. So we hope to be continuing with that in the spring to summer of 2018. So that is the recommended proposed budget, Mayor. And I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now it's time for public comments.
I have a question, 2 questions. When you said the fire district is a flow through, the money, where does that money come from?
It comes from the county through the ad valorem tax.
Oh, so that
So
part of that is
the
coming
fire
back.
districts each get a portion of that distribution that the state gets. The state collects all that money, and then they give it to the county, and the county has discretion in how they disperse that, and that's part of that same money that
Part
we're
of the
benefiting
sales
from.
tax, part of the sales tax change percentage. I mean, when they change the sales tax, the way it's done, part of that's coming back through the fire district.
It is, yeah, so,
Okay, that's what I
and I
thought.
didn't calculate how much of that, but there would be a little bit of that coming back through.
Second question, your pie chart, it's hard to know or understand it when you don't have anything to compare it to. What sections got bigger? Did any of them shrink? Is there anything you can address on that issue?
What was the first word you said that,
Your pie chart.
a pie chart,
It
okay.
doesn't mean anything unless you can see the changes from last year.
Well, I did not
Which
include,
section got bigger? Did any of them shrink?
I would actually, Ms. Wilcox, I'd have to go get the book from last year and compare the two. I can't answer that right now.
Well, it makes it hard to understand if you don't have a comparison.
I understand. The budget is higher than last year's budget, so I would suspect that very few of them went down. But, there may have been one or two that went down.
Thank you.
Can you explain clarify what the difference is between administration and finance and central government?
Administration finance includes Nicole and Hillary and all of the people that work back here in the office. Central government has to do with the whole gamut. I'm going to just go down through the list right here, if I remember what page it's on, page 39. It's legal services, it's our audit fee, it's postage and mailing, printing, maintenance and repair, it's our IT, computer systems. Pardon me?
Operating expenses.
That's right. Yep.
Karen?
Can you tell me, Caldwell County pays the fire department up here to service this area, is this correct?
They do. It's been a nominal amount, but I understand there's a change in, perhaps in the works for this upcoming year.
Well, I guess the reason I'm asking is 2 years ago, Caldwell County, where our house or our bedroom is in Caldwell County, doubled, operative word, doubled the assessment on our house and all the properties, and I said to him, what? So it would seem, and I said to him at the time, I hope you're going to be doubling your contribution to the Roaring Run Fire District to service all of these residences that, I mean, a double is a lot. So they need us, and I guess I wonder how aggressive a posture our town government is in dealing with these counties that need our services, because if they could afford to double this, they could afford to pay us more.
Well, I can tell you that our fire chief, Kent Graham, who happens to be standing there, heard the question.
And also to answer part of Ms. Wilcox's question, that funding pass-through for this additional staffing, half of it comes from Caldwell County funding. So,
What's that in money, dollars and cents, if you don't mind my asking?
total or
What
Caldwell
was it
County-
and what is it now? What was it then?
Total Caldwell County portion is about $150,000.
And how many homes or residences and properties, commercial and residential, does that cover?
The Caldwell.
Caldwell portion.
Caldwell Fire District.
Yeah.
Commercial property is very few.
Are they residential?
Residential is somewhere in the 250 range.
Sounds like a real we sure could block vote and defeat a few of them, because I just feel like we're being taken advantage of.
I understand that perspective. It's, if there is a place where we can redirect that funding to our advantage, this is it. That's one of the few places that we can,
Which place?
on a pass-through into this budget.
The fire district money.
That's,
Are we gonna be talking about the fact there's still not an ambulance over in the fire department's, little bay?
I'm not gonna be talking about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in her defense, Mr. Mayor, the city council, the Blowing Rock, our namesake, pays Caldwell County almost $17,000 a year in property taxes. 17,000 $17,000 a year in property taxes, okay? We pay the town of Blowing Rock $6,400 a year. We receive all of our services from the fine people in the town of Blowing Rock. I've got real heartburn with that. I don't think it's fair to the town. It's not fair to the people in Caldwell County that pay town of Blowing Rock taxes. So, it's just food for thought. Now, I do know, I've talked to Kent before, and some of that money does go towards the fire. I don't know if it goes towards police protection or not, but we receive police protection from the town of Blowing Rock as well. So, just food for thought. We pay 2.5 times more tax money at the Blowing Rock to Caldwell County. Secondly, water meter purchases. Should that not be a town responsibility, not a homeowner?
The proposal is for the town to buy the water meters. The extra is the head that will be put on those meters that will benefit the consumer greatly. So the cost for them, let's say I don't have that sheet with me, but the cost for the meters is very, very high. The 1,400 meters that have to be replaced, that is not included in what the town will eventually be asking the account holders to pay.
Let's keep in mind this point. We have a lot of people in town, my mother's one, who does not have a computer. You have a lot that are not gonna wanna access it. How are they gonna benefit? Just food for thought.
Well, I can speak to that from the office perspective here. Holly Autry is the utility billing administrator, and actually, in addition to the customers having a dashboard, we have a dashboard here where every.
You should.
Yes, sir. Every time we log in, we will see alerts, so we actually watch it from our side as well, so that we can alert the customers. And I don't know if anybody in here, we had a pilot program where we did install some of these meters around town.
There is one on Terry Acres.
Okay, so some of you may have experienced already, the benefit of the meter, because I know that Holly has already used it, to get ahead of the game, to call the customer and notify them, hey guys, take a look, because we're seeing some heavy usage. So it still will benefit those without computer use.
Well, I understand, and I think most people here understand the advantage to that meter. You don't have to have a meter reader now, okay?
That's true.
It's all done electronically, okay? So keeping that in mind, what do you do with that one or two people that are reading meters?
Well, we
Where do
don't
you
have,
place them?
we don't have anybody whose full-time job is reading meters. They do that for a couple of days every 2 months.
Okay.
So the majority of that time, they'll just be working on projects that they have to leave in order to go read meters.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But there would be some administrative savings, right? If this is automated?
The administrative savings, I don't know that there will be any less effort, except for those times when people are not reading meters, and I wouldn't call that administrative, but basically the amount of work at town level is gonna be virtually the same. We're just gonna have a tool available to us, like Nicole was talking about, where we will be able to go in and look at people's meters and see if we see anything, you know. If, I'll bring up a hypothetical, let's say we see water coming up in the street, or somebody's complaining about water coming up at their yard, we would be able to go to their dashboard and look and see whether there's an exorbitant amount of money, water and money, coming through their meter. They're synonymous in that case. So we're still gonna be doing the billing, we're still gonna be doing everything that we're doing in order to get the bills out. So I don't see that being a major administrative saver. Do you, Nicole?
Not on the administrative side. Particularly, I think year one is going to be a transitional year, so perhaps there will be some monetary, you know, as far as, you know, time, cost associated with that time that will be coming. And we'll, I mean, certainly keeping an eye on that and looking for those opportunities. But I think year one in particular, we're not, it's going to be probably a little bit more time and work to get everybody adjusted and start up the program.
Do we contract out our billings for water now?
Yes, sir. And we don't contract the billing, we contract out the stuffing the envelopes and mailing them.
Mayor, I have a statement.
Please.
Ed, thanks very much for that very professional presentation. Good job. Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of our council, ladies and gentlemen of the greatest town in America, greetings. I am George Wilcox. I'm a homeowner here and a taxpayer, and I come before you tonight simply as a taxpayer and homeowner, not in behalf of any organization. Since 2014, you've increased the Blowing Rock property tax rate by 21.4%. Inflation during that same time increased prices by only 3%. If you approve the 9% property tax increase in the budget before you, you will have increased the tax rate by 32.1% since 2014. Blowing Rock citizens, of course, approved a much-needed bond issue, in fact, several issues in 2014 that have made possible much-needed improvements in our town, and I'm grateful to all of you for that because you can see the tangible results of that and keep up the good work. The bonds alone, when proposed, were projected to require a 32.25% increase in Blowing Rock property taxes by 2021. If the additional authorized $6 million in bonds are issued as planned, and if you raise the town property taxes this year by 9%, and if you have the tax increases envisioned in the visual that Ed just used, every year they're planning track tax increases over the next 4 years for bond debt only. If you do that, the town property tax rates will have been raised by 2021 by 53.6%. Now that's a number that gets any financial person's attention. Implementing bond-related tax increases moving forward will alone represent, I think, a tremendous challenge to this town. Now, only 2/3 of the proposed 9% tax increase in the budget before you is for bond debt service. And of course, we're raising water and sewer fees all along the way regularly to help pay the bond debt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Watauga County Commission just approved a 13% property tax increase, largely to fund a special project that is estimated to cost at least $30 million. There are no specific plans in hand for that. There is a referendum coming up that they have approved for an additional 1/4% county sales tax to be placed on the ballot next year by the county. And there's been some talk of a property tax reduction if that sales tax is approved. I'll call to your attention that same sales tax was proposed in 2010 for the same facility for which they're trying to find funding now and was overwhelmingly defeated by the voters of this county. Additionally, of course, as has been mentioned, The county recently took from our town approximately $100,000 of sales taxes generated right here in Blowing Rock. Now, certainly, big county tax increases were not anticipated when the bond issues were approved. And this makes the job of managing our town expenditures and taxes a whole lot more challenging, let me tell you. And I want to say something to these fine folks from the school system back here. The Watauga school system is a wonderful, wonderful school system. We're all proud of you, and you're doing great work. And I'm not in any sense disparaging anything or any funding that you're requesting. And I want to make that very clear, if I may. And I don't think anybody in this room would take issue with that. The continued relatively weak and spotty economy was not anticipated when the bond plan was done in 2014. And this is going to be another continuing big challenge to our town. Hopefully the economy is going to perk up and do better. It's spotty. It's great in a few towns in North Carolina, and across the state generally, it's not all that good. Blowing Rock property values were, of course, hit hard by the recession. There's been little improvement in those property values either. And now some of your increase in property tax rates has been due to the revaluation of property that saw a 4.5% drop in property values. That's the 2014 revaluation. I think it's fair to say, based on conversations with realtors in the community, that Blowing Rock properties are now at least fully valued for tax purposes. You know, it used to be in the bygone era that the market value of your property might far exceed the tax value. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, that doesn't seem to be the case this time. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention to you, that comparison of tax rates can be deceptive. It's tax bills that really count. And we're going to see some significantly higher tax bills in this county and in this town this year, apparently. The next county revaluation is scheduled for 2022, so if you think there's going to be much change between now and then, don't count on it. Now, from 2000 to 2007, the average American home value increased by 67%. And many Blowing Rock properties did even better than that. And during that period, to your credit, you reduced the tax rates in recognition of this escalating value in homes. And at the same time, retained really excellent financial management that's enabled you to have very high ratings for your bonds. And that's very much to the credit of this town government. Well, folks, today's world is different from the 2000 to 2007 world. The second home market has been a major factor in the growth of the Blowing Rock real estate values. But now, those values are languishing, and Ed's information certainly verified that. Potential buyers are resisting the risk of buying an asset that can crash in value instead of steadily increasing in value as it did for many years. A home is an asset that is costly to maintain, and also you've got to pay taxes on it. So it's a little bit different than a number of other types of assets. Blowing Rock tax bills are relatively high, despite apparently low tax rates, because we have by far the highest tax values in Watauga County. Nobody comes close. We have much higher tax values than the surrounding counties. These higher tax values are indicated by current market listings. The current Blowing Rock median sales listing is $415,000. Boone, it's only $214,000. Beech Mountain, $190,000. Watauga County, $299,000. Ashe County, $249,900. Avery County, $229,000. And poor Caldwell County down the road that's got very high taxes, $111,250 is the average, is the median listing for real estate down in Caldwell County. Tax rates increased sharply for each of the towns and counties that I've mentioned as property values decline. You can go in and study it till the cows come home, and you'll find that's the way it is. These increases are prompted as the town or county government scrambles to try to provide services. And as taxes rise, property values often decline, putting some municipalities in a veritable death spiral. And I would say our friends down in Caldwell County are approaching that situation. They raise tax rates and receive fewer dollars, ultimately because of flight from the area, and they've seen a good bit of that. Now, excess taxation can have very negative, unintended consequences for citizens and towns. I don't know whether you've noticed it or not, but even the best planning often goes awry. If good planning and 5-year plans had worked, the Soviet Union would have been the most successful economic entity in world history. It didn't happen. Taxation, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't plan, we should, but taxation is certainly one of the public officials' most serious responsibilities. And I feel your pain in doing that. Believe me, I do. And I commend you for being forthright about the situation. But it's tough. You're taking money that's been hard earned by citizens directly from them. They're taking it from those who are full-time residents, those who live here part-time, and commercial property owners who don't live here at all. But all of them share one thing in common. They're all full-time taxpayers, and they're the owners of the town, really. Investors, rich, poor, of whom we have quite a number in this area, and those in between are all compelled to pay taxes. Property owners and potential property owners are all, as we meet here tonight, making important decisions about Blowing Rock that are influenced by taxes. More affordable housing for Blowing Rock. That's been talked about by a lot of good people in this community, and a lot of us have concerns about it. Well, let me tell you, friends, as you increase taxes, that's getting further away as a possibility. Not only here, but in Watauga County. I met with some of the leaders, and Ben Powell was in this meeting at Appalachian State University, our great university in Boone, and they were decrying the fact that staff and faculty cannot afford to live in Boone, Watauga County. They're going over to Ashe County and other places to find housing because of the cost of housing. Well, let me tell you, as you raise taxes, that's going to be a more difficult proposition. And one of the things about it is that we watch in the financial area is not only what's happening now, but the trends. What's our trend here? Is our trend going to be escalating taxes? I think it's highly unpredictable what Watauga County is going to do, in all due respect. I attended 2 of those meetings over there. There was no plan on the table for use of the funds that they're going to get from their tax increase. They were challenged about it, but had no answers other than to really castigate people as being against schools who dared to oppose a tax increase. And also there was some faith proposition about, well, I have faith in the county manager. He's got some plans. Well, you know, he looked like he was about to swallow his tongue when they said that, because I don't know whether they had a plan or not. But anyway, that was the approach over there, folks. This is, I think, a troublesome, very troublesome situation. In view of everything we face, I strongly recommend that careful consideration be given to pushing all except the top priority bond finance projects out to later in the approved 10-year bond period, to spread the accumulation of debt and the increase of taxes to repay that debt. And that would be done in hopes of better economic conditions in the near future, which hopefully will happen. At the same time, I recommend that you very diligently scrutinize all other administrative and operational costs to minimize the need to increase non-bond related taxes. Because let me tell you, you're going to have a tremendous job just paying for these bonds if you use all of them, all 13 million. It's going to be a challenging situation because you've got tax increases scheduled next year, the year after, the following year, and the following year. You start tacking on more tax increases, you're going to do a lot of damage here, I'm afraid. So friends, Let me tell you, I am firmly convinced that a 3% increase in property taxes this year, combined with the 6% bond-related taxes and the outrageous county 13% increase, is excessive. And let me tell you, I have great respect for all of you and great appreciation to you for listening to my presentation, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Anyone else? Last chance. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, vote no. We'll entertain a motion for action on the budget and comments. Comments?
Well, I just want to recognize the manager and Nicole presenting to me, I think, the first honest budget I have ever seen. I've been here 10 years. They did a great job. There's no fluff to it. My bias when I came into the 2 long night meetings we had about it was to do what George said. But I heard all the reasons. Our town is the prettiest it's ever been. The business of this town is tourism. I can't roll the dice for us to go backwards on neglecting our #1 industry for 3 cents. I just can't do it. George is in charge of a group that this town owes a lot of gratitude to. Probably you don't know it. If it hadn't been for his group, this highway out here would be about half finished what it is now. So thank you, George. But now when I soften you up with that, I have to say, you had a lot of figures, and I heard the figure 50% tax increase. Let me tell you, if that were totally true, I'd be wearing an AK-47 right now. One thing that has not been mentioned tonight is what did the state of North Carolina put on us by a thing called Memorandum of Understanding of U.S. Highway 321 years ago that nobody on this council had one thing to do with, and it is we have to mow the grass, push the snow off all the new sidewalks when the road's finished. Okay? They pay us a pittance to do that, but we have to do it because it got agreed upon, not by us. And the other thing to put in everybody's strong mood is everybody on this board pays taxes in this town.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I want everybody to understand that if we pass this budget tonight, that the budget has in it some things that we absolutely do not have to do to spend. Okay? So we don't have to spend all the money if we don't want to. That's important, I think, for all of us here. We'll be taking a look at all of those things. And we'll be listening to you all. Because we want to prioritize things that are the things that are needed. Not just wanted, but are absolutely needed. The other thing that I think that we have to, that we as a council have to do, and we have done, is look at everything and ask ourselves, should we be doing this now? Well, we've always done it in the past. Well, that's great, but things have changed. You articulated it, George. Things have changed around here. So we still have to keep asking ourselves, is it up to us, the government, your representatives, to keep doing what we've done in the past? in spending that kind of money. And we've got to do that every year. But I'll tell you, it is tough to take away something once you've given it. It is tough. The uproar is tough to take. But a lot of us are prepared to make that decision if we have to. If you are adamant and strong enough and concerned enough, we can make those decisions. I'm going to give you an example. Our July 4th parade costs our town between $23,000 a year. Do you think it pays for itself? It does not. It does not pay for itself. It comes right out of the general fund. But there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in Parks and Recreation where the income and the expenses are in concert with one another. It doesn't cost us a lot. So when we go through these things, don't think that it's just tax and spend. It isn't. All of us care a lot about this town and how we spend the money. Because it's yours. It ain't ours. Just ours. Okay? That's all I want to say about it.
Okay, one of the big things in this increase in taxes that we were looking at also had to do with a pay study that we did 3 years ago, and that we're trying to make, finally finishing up with the 4th year this year. It was kind of embarrassing when we look back and we got this study done of what our employees were actually making compared to other towns around us. And when you started looking at, they were actually probably 10 years ago taking home more money than they were taking home at this time right now. When you look at what, and I know everybody in here's dealt with it, is your health insurance. When you've got health insurance increasing there for a couple of years at 15%, you're not increasing your employees anything. Hardly, they kept going backwards. So one of the major things with this increase is we are finally finishing up bringing our town employees up to where they should be. And I'm very glad of that part. And I'm very glad it's been put on the taxpayers' back, but we needed to bring our employees up to where they needed to be.
I think our choice was to cut personnel or services, and one of the things that we chose as a council was to not do that. We did shift some employees around and did cut one in administration. The other thing that we are being charged with is maintaining equipment, which has not really been done. We are replacing garbage trucks, police cars, and there was never any money in the budget for it. So those are expensive. Your garbage truck, I think we're on our last one, is $150,000. To equipped a police car, I want to say 48,000. So these are things that we feel we need to do and to protect the citizens. So I went into the budget saying I wasn't going to do 3 cents, and I tried to find fluff, and Nicole and Ed did a great job. There wasn't any. So we did what I think is a very good job, and I will stand by the budget.
I agree with everything they've said. Every one of us knows that everything that we've done at home or our businesses, I'm in a business, my increases have gone up tremendously. The increases that went up when the downturn happened, a lot of the people I buy from, they increased those costs a lot. They ain't come back down yet. It's still the same. Town's the same way. Everything we do costs more. Our health insurance is probably gone up in the last 5 years 50% to what we have to pay for health insurance. The tires we put on our vehicles have gone up tremendously. I wanted to find fluff in this too, and I just couldn't do it. I read it for a month, and I read it more than once, and I stand behind it.
I forgot something. I want to purge myself. If the commissioners had not taken the $106,000, we'd be pretty well in the catbird seat right now. But I don't want anybody in the newspaper business to equate me with a criticism of the commissioners directly, because I don't walk in their shoes. And absent or like the dead, they can't defend themselves. So I want to get that straight with you two guys.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for action.
Make a motion that we accept the budget as proposed.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? None? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, vote no. Motion carries. Budget is adopted. Thank you, Nicole and Ed, for all your hard work, and you 5 people here to my left, I know how hard y'all labored on this as well. Okay, next order of business will be report from Destination by Design. Teresa.
All right, thanks folks. Bring this down just a little bit. I'm just gonna pull up the slide. It's really just 5 slides. So I know you all have heard the presentation at the May Council meeting. So this is really just to update you all on the stakeholder meeting about Sunset Drive, stakeholder meeting and the public meeting. We had the stakeholder meeting on May 23rd as a drop-in session, and invitations, I think, went out to all businesses on Sunset. And then we had on May 30th, open to the general public, folks could come and actually, instead of a drop-in session where they're just kind of talking to us, we actually did the presentation so that more people understood what the point was and what the purpose was. So I'm going to go through those. Yeah. So just a reminder of our scope, we really were just looking at Sunset and looking at developing some gateway alternatives for coming off of Valley Boulevard into the downtown. And one of the points that was brought up in the public meeting was, there are 2 other gateways. And I said, absolutely, there are. This is the one that we're tasked with looking at. And so that was a good point that someone had brought up, that there are 2, a north and a south gateway, and this is one gateway. This is not the only gateway into downtown. But this was the one that we were tasked with looking at. We were looking at streetscape alternatives. You've got a roadway that starts fairly narrowly at Main Street and gets much wider as you go toward 321 Valley Boulevard. So looking at a couple of different cross sections that could happen there to make that both traffic calming, a safer pedestrian environment, and looking at kind of how that functions. So we presented all those options at the council retreat in January, and then we're tasked with, hey, let's hear from stakeholders, let's hear from the general public what they think of these ideas. We've got our opinions about them, but we want to hear from folks. So that's where we're at. So the stakeholder meeting, we had, I think, a good turnout. About 25 folks came out. Generally, they gave very specific feedback to us. As opposed to love it or hate it, it was real specific. It's like, this is what I really need. This is what's going to help my business, and that's very helpful to us. For example, with parking, because part of the proposal was to look at just that first section, of course, of Main Street. Could we remove some of that parallel parking to create a safer, wider vehicle lanes and safer pedestrian environment? And some folks, specifically in the stakeholder meeting, would say, you know, it's not a matter of just, I'm concerned about taking away parking. It was more specific to that. Some businesses said, you know, people park in front of my business all day long, and I'd actually rather people be able to see the frontage. And so that's not going to be a problem for me if there's not a particular parallel parking space in front of my business. Other folks said, we don't necessarily need 3-hour parking. We need about half an hour parking so people can pop in and pop out. And of course, restaurants are different. They're going to need longer parking. Signage, we heard from them to really kind of, if the town can provide signage that's really indicative of how long a person has to walk to specific places, that would be helpful, potentially for people to park in the lots versus on the parallel parking spots. And really include, if you're looking at this as a aesthetic improvements, why not include the bearing of the overhead power lines on specific blocks? And that makes a lot of sense. It's a challenge, it's an expensive thing to do. We heard to tie in a little bit better with the DOT project in terms of character and materials. A couple of business owners said this is a game changer. This could really mean that we've got to do this. You have to have a sense of arrival as you're coming on Sunset Drive. This is going to help us. It's going to help the value of the business. So we heard that as a positive. It'd be critical that this particular work, the streetscape, would be critical to creating a vibrant second commercial corridor. You've got Main Street. There's just not a lot more places for a commercial corridor to grow, and this is one of those. And so just the importance of this project we heard. We also heard in terms of specifically the gateways, in between the stakeholder meeting and the public meeting, we came up with an alternative because we had heard, that first alternative that we were tasked with, kind of let's take that to another level. Yeah, it elicited either really strong response positively or strong response negatively, which is the purpose of, that's the purpose of what we do here in the conceptual level. These aren't construction documents. These aren't going to bid. The purpose of this is to elicit a response. And so, but we heard enough that we thought, let's develop another alternative. And you can see here from this slide, we showed the top one on the top and the bottom one on the bottom. And this other alternative, really we wanted to incorporate different materials, including, of course, the stone, which is the historic material, but also timber, as well as decorative metal work in this. And we had, as you can see, the check marks on the left-hand side. Many more people were positive toward that. It wasn't to say that that is the end-all, be-all, or that's the end concept, but people were more favorable toward that with some tweaks. And I think they liked the fact that it was asymmetrical. You could have a larger sign. It's got to read from a vehicle going 40 miles an hour. I realize it's the actual, it's 35 through there, but they're going.
You're right. You're right.
It's got to read from someone in a car. So it doesn't have to necessarily be this symmetrical. So anyway, we're looking at different materials, and this may not be the end-all, be-all, but that people responded positively toward that. Maybe to look at that and create some more historical elements in that. So was the response. In terms of the public meeting, I think I've mentioned the first one already, that folks were confused. It seemed as if when we were, and that's on us, it seemed as if when we were advertising for this, that this is the only gateway into Blowing Rock. No, it was just the one we were focused on. So that made a lot of sense. People were generally more favorable to that concept. They were concerned about any loss of parking whatsoever. So, and that makes sense. At the same time, we have an issue there of safety. So, they were concerned about the costs, of course, and the impact on taxes. There's much interest and concern with the former Village Pharmacy property. Either some folks were saying the town should buy that and put a parking lot there, or some folks were saying, you just have to wait and see their plans. And this is interesting because I did have a conversation with one of the controlling owners there today, and they're interested in this project for the same reasons that we heard from the other stakeholders of you have to have a sense of arrival here. You have to, this street, this could be a game changer. And they're willing to look at, parking there and willing to have conversations about that. So, so that was very positive conversation. So I think one of the follow-ups is to have a more in-depth conversation with those folks. Potential next steps is looking at design development for the streetscape and the gateway concept. Take those to the next level so that we can get to specific lighting and really hone in on what those costs would be and how to phase that potentially, and continued stakeholder engagement. So that's sort of the quick and dirty, but other questions from you all. And I also have the rest of the presentation up here if you want to, that I'm not going to go through formally, but if we have questions, we can go to those specific slides.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, sure thing.
Good
Job.
job.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, new business, Watauga County School Superintendent Scott Elliott and the Blowing Rock School. Welcome, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, Mr. Lawrence, council members. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to update you on the drainage repair project that we have planned at Blowing Rock School. Before that, though, I just want to say a word of thanks. It's the first time I've been able to formally come and visit with you. But thank you for all of your ongoing support of Blowing Rock School. Principal Suko is with us this evening. I bring a welcome from our Board of Education, Mr. Henry, you might have seen with us earlier this evening. He had another event this evening, but wanted to make sure that I offered his thank you for your support of this project. Our Director of Facilities, Danny Clark, is with us here. You probably know our engineer, Mr. Mike True, who is really the person who can answer your questions this evening if you have it. We had a very positive school year this year. 180 days went by more quickly than most this year, with only 7 days missed due to bad weather. And by the way, thank you for your investment in the new fire station on Aho. That's where I turn around at 3:30 in the morning when I'm checking roads. So thank you for that. There's a lot to be proud of about Blowing Rock School. We try very hard to be a very good neighbor to the town, to the businesses around us, and we enjoy a great deal of support from the town and from the businesses and volunteers and community members. We're very proud of the teachers and the students and all the things that are going on there. This year, you may know, for the second year in a row, a teacher at Blowing Rock School was recognized as the countywide Teacher of the Year. It really speaks to the quality and the high standards within the school and the support that Mr. Suko gives to the school. One of the things that we are most excited about in the coming school year is bringing pre-K back to Blowing Rock. It has been a number of years since the pre-K program, thank you, Ms. Powell, was at Blowing Rock School. And we are working in partnership with ASU and the Lucy Brock program in order to create that private-public, if you will, or public-public in a way, partnership that makes it more affordable for us from an operational perspective. We do have that partnership now in its second year at Parkway School. It's proven to be a very good partnership for us. So our plan is to expand that program to offer 18 slots in pre-K at Blowing Rock next year. And that is to some extent related to the presentation that I have for you, or the information that I want to share with you about the drainage remediation project. In order to be able to utilize the space necessary for the pre-K program within the school, we need to move some classroom space around. And in order to do that, we need to be able to use 2 classrooms on the Sunset Drive side of the school, which currently we are choosing not to use. And we're choosing not to use them because they are in disrepair because of the ongoing water damage that occurs because of the water runoff along the sidewalk down onto that side, the old side of the old entrance to the school along Sunset. We have adopted our local budget. As Mr. Wilcox said, there's a great deal of funding in the local budget from the county commissioners for capital needs, $500,000 for next year, along with $300,000 that we receive from lottery funding. That's a question that I get all the time. What about lottery funding? We receive about $300,000 a year for capital projects from the North Carolina Education Lottery. And from that, in our list of about $3.6 million of identified needs, we're going to be able to fund maybe $1 million worth of those needs, depending on how much of fund balance we choose to use. This project, among our prioritized list, is the number 2 highest rated priority project. When I first came to the district, now almost 3.5 years ago, and met with each of the schools and did my own informal assessment of the schools, looked at our 10-year capital improvement plan and the funding that we had over the last decade for it, and in meeting with our principals, I immediately identified this as one of our top 3 or 4 projects in the district that needed attention. In talking to Mr. Suko about this project, unfortunately, through the years we've come to just live with it. There are many mornings when Mr. Suko, even his boys, and custodians in the school, Lloyd does a great job, if you don't know Lloyd. It's often I'll come to the school in the morning and hear the hum of the wet drybacks down the hall, or see sandbags along the thresholds of the doors. There are even times in the past, we don't do this anymore, Mr. Fire Chief, but when the door might have been caulked. Those doors caulked in order to prevent the water from flowing into the school. So we want to make better use of the facility, and in order to do that, we need to clean up and repair those classrooms so that we can then move some other classes into that space and then free up the space in the middle of the building, which was the original pre-K classroom. We actually have two parts of this plan that need attention. One is along the side, the alleyway along the auditorium, and leading out down that little alleyway out to Sunset. And then the other is on down along the original part of the building, and you know, the grade that is right there from the rock outcropping all the way down to where it levels out beyond the edge of the school. We looked at several options for how to address this, and at least one of those included what would have been a significant disruption to Sunset and to actually breaking into the road and crossing over the road in order to tap into town infrastructure. And the plan that Mr. True has come up with us, we believe would be have a minimal impact to the road. We know that we're coming into the summer tourist season now. We want to continue to be a good neighbor, but we need to get this project done over the summer so that we can use these classrooms to begin the school year. The Board of Education received 3 bids on the project and approved the low bid just last night in their Board of Education meeting. In our Board of Education meeting, J.W. Hampton Construction will be awarded that bid. We have a total budget of about $120,000. So we've really sharpened the pencil to get that project down under budget. And we'll use a combination of lottery and county capital funds for it. I've met with a couple of you as it relates to the use of the auditorium, and we have great dreams about the ways that we could use that auditorium and continue to use it for theater and music performances and really to make it a feature of cultural events in town. But really it makes very little sense for us to invest anything in that auditorium until we can prevent water from flowing in the door and damaging the first good 10 feet of the flooring in that auditorium. So this is the first step to really better utilizing both parts of the school facility. We believe that we can begin the work maybe even as early as next week, and that we may be able to complete the project within 3 to 4 weeks. And as you can see in the drawing, and again, I would defer to Mr. True for, he'll correct anything that I said that was wrong. And I'll defer to him for any more technical questions that you might have, but we're going to be able to correct this with improved French drains and traps in the ground, and then move the water around, not across out into the lower part of Sunset, but actually around the building and into the back, closer around to the playground where we already have drainage down into the field. So that is the current plan. We don't, fortunately, need any support from the town in terms of funding or permitting or ordinance changes or variances or anything in that way.
You're happy about that one.
That said, I'm mindful, Mr. Wilcox has me in a budget from mine, and while we don't receive an appropriation directly from the town, we very much recognize that the residents of Blowing Rock, through your property taxes, fund these capital projects, and we're very much appreciative of that. So we're trying to be a good neighbor here, hopefully in a way that will be complementary to this corridor and streetscape project that you have. Hopefully we can get in and get out in a very quick, timely manner, restore the landscaping there back to the way that we would both want it to be, and get on with making some other much needed improvements within the building. With that said, I'd like to answer any questions or take any suggestions that you might have.
Has your plan gone through Doug, our engineer?
It's my understanding it has, Doug, seen the plan?
The only reason I say that is he knows what we're planning for Sunset. So if y'all could get together on that so that we don't, I mean, we might be able to do something at the same time and not have to tear up the road twice.
The town staff's looked at it. The Gill State is just that.
Okay. Do you feel like you need to?
I think we need to. I
Yeah.
don't think it needs to impede process.
Okay.
Progress.
That would be the big reason, because we're having plans.
We did talk about early on what was in sunset, and municipal work with the town staff to look in the infrastructure that's already there.
Well, you're saying time is of the essence.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can't wait. He can't wait.
Is it something you can do? Can you get this done like this week, so they can start next week? Okay.
Yeah, I don't see that from the process. I mean, there's two pieces to the project, and one of them's not even in sunset either.
That's correct. And one ties in very, very closely on the near side of the street. Hopefully we can get in and out of there very quickly. Mr. Trude?
I was just gonna mention that with these improvements by the auditorium, which was out all one, that should improve the drainage along Sunset Drive. We're gonna be adding one catch basin there that will help
Okay.
accept more stormwater. And that basin will just be a standard basin our intent of that is whatever you do with the streetscape, you can mold whatever your landscaping is, your drainage to that.
Okay.
That will be tied to, they have different grades put on it, whatever you plan for the streetscape. We did contact the town and worked extensively with Mr. Wilcox and walked the street, looked at all the utilities. And we were told that the streetscape plan was not developed yet at this time, so we did ask that we could try to coordinate our two designs together.
Would you be willing to meet with Doug just this week so we can just get him to look at it because he knows what's coming up?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I commend it because I have a 29-year-old and a 32-year-old who went to Blowing Rock, and it was wet then. So that tells you something.
I like, any way that we can help you, I would like for us to be able to.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you. As I said earlier, we appreciate your support and our partnership and all that its many forms, and thank you very much.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
pre-K. We appreciate the pre-K.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Okay, Bass Lake sidewalk. Doug, you got an update for us?
What we wanted to do, if we discussed this at the budget retreat, or budget work session, I should say, is to update you on the plan for the streetscape. We're trying to move this project along as quick as possible, but we want the town council to see and the public to see what's planned along the sidewalk from Main Street to Bass Lake, particularly a couple of spots in between at intersections. If you'll look, this is the entire route, and it begins in Main Street, it's along the north side of 221, and it ends up at the gravel parking area just before you get to the Bass Lake entrance. I'll show you the detail of that in a moment. So I wanted to, hopefully you can see, I know you can't see the construction drawings, but we wanted to provide the aerial photo because it gives everybody a better feel for where it is when you can see the aerial photo. And then we've done blow-ups of the intersections. What's being proposed at Speckled Trout is to install the sidewalk and the curb and gutter. This project will have 30-inch curb and gutter and a 5-foot sidewalk from one end to the other. That's consistent all the way through, except for the handicap ramps and crosswalks at the intersections. So that curb and gutter will face right along where the edge of the pavement is, where the white line is now. And then we're proposing from where the handicap ramp is, which is where, sort of where it begins there, the handicap ramp will be where it is now. And then it will wrap the corner, and from there, from that ramp back to the backside of Speckled Trout, there will be a small seating wall. And small is probably not a good word. It'll be taller than a seating wall, actually, so it won't be an area for people to sit on. It's intended to be about 30 inches high. Now, it's going to change as you go up the hill away from Main Street, so it won't be quite as tall as you get farther to the back. But that would segregate out the people that are walking along the street to the people that are in the Speckled Trout area, and there will be a small landscaping strip in front of that wall. And all those parking places that are right there on that side will go away. And the town staff's already met with the property owner there, the restaurant owners, so they're all aware of that, and they're on board with that game plan. We've also talked to DOT, and DOT's on board with that, and all of that is within the existing right-of-way, so there's no easements to purchase through there. The sidewalk and curb and gutter will follow along up to Morningside Drive. And Morningside, there'll be handicap ramps there. There will be a little bit of detail to work out. You know, if you've noticed, there's a drainage pipe sort of sticking out of the ground there. That won't look like that when we get done. And there may be a few stacks of wall have to be in there to make the grade changes. We haven't got the final grades of the sidewalk worked out there. That's the next step of what we'll be doing after we do this part. So if you look at that slope there, there may have to be something a foot or two high just to make it work out, because the handicap ramps to meet ADA compliance have to be so far back. It's not just a 4-foot square. As we leave Morningside, that drainage will be carried back to Green Street, to the existing drainage, and the bike lane will begin in that area past Morningside where the road widens. So probably the bigger change that we're looking at here is at the intersection of 221 and Green Street. Instead of leaving that big wide expanse of asphalt there now, is to bring Green Street down and curve it into a T intersection, because that makes the crosswalk much shorter and much safer. So this is a benefit to the pedestrians using the route, and that existing asphalt there will be removed, and we don't have a plan for that area yet. That's something that the town will have to look at, something that can be done after this project or as this project's finishing. Then, once the bike lane begins, it will start, and I don't think that we have a section of this. The bike lane basically now is from the white line to the edge of pavement. So what we're proposing, and it's roughly 6 feet, varies in length, but it's roughly 6 feet. So what we're proposing is that the 6-foot bike lane will be from the white line now to the face of the curb. So we have a 30-inch curb and gutter, has a 2-foot gutter and a 6-inch curb. So we will take that 6 feet to include the 2-foot gutter, and that will keep us from going farther back away from the road than if we just put the front of that gutter with the edge of the pavement that's there now. It still allows 6 feet for bicycle traffic, and then the sidewalk will be 5 feet behind that. As we go farther from Green Street, here's where Susie Green's driveway is. Right after her driveway, we'll begin a small retaining wall. Now that retaining wall will be below the road. So from the roadside, you'll only see the lip of the concrete retaining wall, and there'll be a black metal rail on top of it. And on the back side, it'll vary from one end to the other. It's about 600 feet till you get all the way up to that next intersection. I guess it does. There's a cross section of what that looks like. I know it's kind of hard to see at this scale. And it goes up to right before you get to the yard of the last house as you approach Green Street, is where that length ends. And on the back side of that wall, you're going to see there'll be about 3 feet of concrete wall exposed. What we're proposing is a gravity wall. It's a DOT standard wall that tapers. The standard's about 8 to 12 inches on top, and then it tapers underneath the sidewalk to act as a moment to keep it from tipping over. And that works. A concrete wall works good for putting the rail on top. We're proposing to do an alternate bid for putting a form liner on the back side, so it won't just be a straight concrete wall, to see if there's enough money in the budget to cover the extra cost for the form liner. As we go, there'll be another crosswalk at the west end of Green Street. The bike lane, curb gutter sidewalk will extend around this area. The shoulder there has a ditch line in it. that ditch line will be filled in and there'll be drainage pipes put in. So from the back of the sidewalk, that will be sloped gently up, so there'll be a flat area behind the sidewalk in that area to fill against back to the slope. And then as we approach the gravel parking area, this is the parking area right here. It's there now. There's the sign, and there's the trail that goes down to Bass Lake, and the other entrance is right over here. The Park Service said we need to stop. We had to, actually, they didn't say we needed to. We had to stop right there where the wooden sign is. So if you see the wooden sign, that's where we're gonna stop. We requested to fix the asphalt that's kind of strangely cut along the edge and put gravel behind it and all that, but there's historical significance to this trail. As I understand, that was like the original one of the original entrances to the Cone Manor. So they didn't want anything disturbing there. We actually originally first proposed to pave it, the whole parking lot. That wasn't gonna happen. And we argued to at least put a crosswalk, stripe, repave it, put a crosswalk across there. That wasn't gonna happen either. And then just cleaning it up and fixing it wasn't gonna happen. So it wasn't worth arguing with them anymore. We do have environmental reviews are complete and cleared, so we're covered with the Park Service. But we're gonna stop right there. So that's a Cliff Notes version of where we're at. Our team's ready to finish the design. With the review that we've done, there's no right-of-ways needed. I think no right-of-ways will need to be purchased along this route as we've proposed it. So we're expecting probably it's gonna take us about 6 weeks to complete the design. So that we'll have that done by the end of July. Unless somebody sees something that significantly needs to be changed, we need to bring that back. We'll be finished with that by the end of July. We're expecting probably 6 weeks or so for DOT to review it because it is a DOT project. Even though they're paying for it with funneled federal funds, it's their project. So everything goes through their process. So different agencies will have to review that within DOT. So we're hoping that can only be about a 6-week process, but that's probably optimistic. With going out to bid as soon after that as we can. And since we've been talking about the budget, reminding everybody here that 80% of this project is being paid for by a federal grant. The Federal Lands Access Program, and then it funnels through DOT. So the $1.2 roughly $1 million project, the town's part is $280,000 or $260, something like that.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions? Look forward to the design.
Excited.
Absolutely. Okay, the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation Resolution of Support. You want to touch on this? This is for the Dalton Park renovations. It's just a resolution of support to support that.
Right.
We all know what an economic engine Blue Ridge Parkway is.
Make a motion to support the resolution of support.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote no. Motion carries. Thank you. We do break? Yeah, take a 5-minute break. I agree with you.
Great.
5-minute recess. And the manager's report, the next thing.
I'm about to have a seizure.
Keep going.
All right, just wanted to give you an update, started the update giving you the local road paving situation. Tri-County paving is pretty much finished except for some changes they got to do, but we paved Hilltop Way, Norwood Circle, Country Club Lane, and we did some temporary patching on Chestnut Drive, so.
And Circle.
And Circle, that, yeah. We had an area where we had a water leak and ended up having to cut the road. And interestingly enough, the water meter was on the opposite side of the road from the house it served. And of course, the leak had to be in the middle of the road. So anyway, we went ahead and moved that over to the opposite side of the road. Mike's guys did a good job on that while he was at Myrtle Beach. Wanted to comment on our appreciation to the Bridge Club. They donated, I don't remember the monetary value, was it $2,800? Almost $3,000 they donated for flooring, to re-floor the Blowing Rock Clubhouse. So we really appreciate the Bridge Club for their gift.
Looks good. I was in there on Saturday.
Did you? Okay, good. The comment.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, it's changed.
it's Clubhouse now.
Clubhouse, and of course, we're hoping that building will become more utilized as a venue for wedding receptions or things of that. We know it's not quite obviously not up to the standard of the American Legion building, but we're hoping that some of those changes will make it more popular as well. It's already been mentioned how good the town looks, and if you have walked up and down Main Street, you see we have the flowering baskets are now hanging. We really appreciate all the donations that have come in to BRAC to fund those baskets. And also really thank Chris Pate and Ricky Hudson for all the work they've done. I wish I had $1 for every person that has stopped in front of Town Hall and taken pictures of the alliums. They're pretty incredible. But just the whole area from this side of the library down all the way to the 1888 museum, the contributions that both Ricky and Chris have made, along with the Garden Club, looks fantastic. I've been coming here every year for a lot of years, and I don't remember seeing it look any nicer than it looks now. So, Jennifer, if you will, let Chris and Ricky know how much we appreciate their contribution, what they're doing.
And BRAC.
And BRAC, absolutely. Also in BRAC, we had a weather issue that came for BRAC cleanup day, and instead of canceling the event altogether, they changed it to cleanup week. And we want to again express our appreciation to all the people, all the citizens, and people who came out to clean up our streets and help the town look more beautiful. We also did a town employee work day on May 18th, and we had a good number of employees from especially administration, planning, and Mike's guys out doing things that are different than they ordinarily do, and their contributions are well noted as well. They did a lot of flower planting and digging and scratching around in the dirt, so thank you. I already mentioned this to the council in a email, but if Doug Eller were here, I would, and Mr. Whittington, Kevin Whittington, we stayed on them a little bit, but they did come finally and beautify by taking out all of the sticks and logs and everything out of the ditch from Hill Street almost back to Chatola. And you can see with what they have done there, we believe that what they've done will greatly enhance the drainage and erosion. They've put in areas to slow down the velocity of the water. So I guess it pays to be persistent. I was afraid we'd make them mad before we got it done, but we didn't.
They don't get mad, they get even.
That's right. And then finally, I just wanted to mention to you that council had authorized and we completed a water plant chemical feed room If you get into that kind of thing, stop in there and look at it. I hope there are some before and after photos, because what they did is really, really good. So, we know it'll be much more functional and last a lot of years, so. And I think one thing I failed to get on here that I wanted to mention, Mr. John Warren's not here tonight, but wanted to let you know that John has earned his last certificate, Fire Inspector Level 2, which qualifies him to do Level 3 inspections for a probationary period of 2 years, after which he will be fully qualified as our building inspector in all trades at the highest level. So, congratulations to John. Kevin, if you'll relate that, and I will too if I can remember. So,
All right. Okay, thank you, Ed. I'm sure you have the departmental reports in your hands. The speakers from the floor, we had Ann Ryan and Rita White, and I think they both left. Then we got Lori Mulhern, and you want to talk about speeding? Lori?
I sure do.
Come on.
Okay, so, it was dramatically noticeable last Friday, I guess, when they went to the 4-lane in front of the Marine Park. I don't have speed gun in my hand, but when I tell you that there had to be people blowing through there at 60 miles an hour, was probably, closer to the average than not. I'm really concerned about it. I heard two things. I get it both ends, as you've heard before. The 18-wheelers get about I live just 2 streets up on Sunset on the east side. The 18-wheelers get to about the fire department, and they see that light is still green, and they floor it, and then on the other side of the light, once they've gotten through it, they throw the J-brakes on. But as an example, we had guests come down this morning, pretty mad about how noisy the road was last night, and insisting on a refund last night, and some other things and whatnot. But I just can't state enough that I think that now that the entirety of this project is going to be open and going 4 lanes, that I really think that we need to get on top of this. And I don't think that it is another, some people in town apparently feel that we're going to get to be known for ticket traffic, they call it speed trap, and the tourists are going to stay away. It is not the tourists that are speeding like this. It's the people that are, commuting from Boone to Lenore, or, vice versa, or the delivery trucks that are, going from Charlotte or Tennessee, the 18-wheelers and whatnot. So I just think that we need to get on top of it, because, one of the fastest and easiest ways for us to become irrelevant as a town or a less desirable destination is for us to start having a whole lot of accidents on that road. Then people are going to stay away. You can't drive that road. It's too busy, it's too crazy. And I understand there was an accident this afternoon. I don't know if anybody knows anything. I know there was an accident. We saw it. There's a picture of it, but there was an accident across from the urgent care on the southbound side. The other thing is that when they opened it to the 4-lane the other evening, I walked to the street, and from Green Hill Road to as far as I could see, there was not one speed limit sign, not one. And Steve today drove down to Blackberry, and Blackberry, there's one 35-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, which is, we have photos to show you. It is halfway bent over onto the ground, and there's not another one until after the furniture store. So, they need to stay on top of, issues like that, even in the short term. There should be no speed limit signs, but
be really fast, but unfortunately, I can't go as fast as the traffic that's blowing through Blowing Rock right now at 55 miles an hour. And I'm going to try to keep within the time limit. I do have to say I notice a paradox when you're passing a budget, raising taxes, and saying you're doing everything you do to keep taxes down, and then people come up and start showing fantasy plans for the Sunset entry point, because it's not one of the entry points into Blowing Rock, but it's an entry into the merchants that have places on Sunset. And in the community where I live, where the merchants wanted to upgrade the street, they created a taxing district. I don't know if you can do that in North Carolina, but when the merchants and the property owners of Sunset are going to benefit from a substantial expenditure of the town, it seems to me the town in similar situations, and this is, I guess, water over the dam, if this comes up, there should be a taxing district created, and the stores and the owners of that property should be sharing in the costs of those improvements. The problem, you should be careful what you wish for, because you may get it. And for 5 years, we wished for the construction to be done, and it was bad. But when the road actually opened, when they opened the interstate now, Blowing Rock, and the traffic is whizzing through here at speeds you can't believe unless you're out there, and or if you try to get out of the Canyons parking lot after brunch, and it takes you 5 minutes to get out on a Sunday when we're not even in full season, you'll learn or you'll know. You want to come to the Green Park, sit on my veranda. I'll give you a drink, water of course, but because I don't want to make any, what do they call it, emoluments to the board, but water of your choice. And you can sit and listen to it, and you'll know what we're talking about. So the road opens up and we lose the construction, and now I prayed that the construction was still going on, because they would close 2 or more lanes, and you'd put up with the jackhammers that I thought were bad, but they'd only go from maybe 7 o'clock in the morning till 10, and then you refund those guests. The town loses the TDA money. The town loses the sales tax. It's not just Steve and Jean losing the money. By the way, I'm Steve Ires. I'm one of the owners, along with my brother. Problem is speeding, and right now, and this is an emergency situation. I'm sorry to keep you late, but this, I can't impress on you enough the importance of this. And I'll more on that later, but the solution is proper posting of signs permanently, and right now on an emergency basis. I don't know how you do that. I don't know who deals with the DOT. I don't know if it's them. I don't know if the town can put the signs up. If I can buy a sign and put it up, you better believe I'll put it up. But there's one sign right now. I did the drive, and I have pictures for you, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here we have pictures. I went down to Blackberry Road, and about 50 yards north of Blackberry Road is this poor, pathetic little traffic sign, bent over so to the point you almost have to feel sorry for it. And that's the only sign between 50 yards north of Blackberry Road and a little bit beyond the furniture store. So what we need right away are signs. People don't know. And whether it's done on an emergency basis, or whether someone calls the DOT and says, hey, get signs up there, because right now it's a joke. There are none. People don't even know if they want to obey the law. But when they see that superhighway rolling out in front of them, and they're on a run to make deliveries in Tennessee, they step on the gas, because they think superhighway, highway speed, interstate, 55 miles an hour. The question is, and Lori alluded to it, but to be blunt, and I'm not throwing stones at anyone, I'm not trying to give anyone a hard time, but there doesn't seem to be a passion to enforce the speed limit in this town. And this is a tourist town, and I believe there's a substantial block of people here, probably including parents of teenagers who are driving, not to enforce the speed limit, like we have it, but we don't really mean it. But if we don't get going on the superhighway, we're gonna be in big trouble. There was a unfortunate accident today, just to, again, drive home the point. I have pictures for you. This was about 4 o'clock, and this was right across the street from the clinic. And you can see by the 6 people and the paramedics on the street that this was a serious accident. There was a seriously injured person. He or she was taken away in an ambulance to the hospital. That's the first. Now, how many more are we going to take before you decide on the board whether the biggest risk is to be called a speed trap or to be called a death trap? How many people are going to get hurt or killed? Because on an interstate, on a real interstate, there's an acceleration or a deceleration strip so that you can match the speed of the 55-mile-an-hour traffic before you pull on. We don't have that here. We have crossing streets where people are dead stopped at a perpendicular to the interstate, and they're trying to cross it or pull onto it. And you just can't go fast enough when you have the speed that the traffic is going. And it's going that speed, and it won't take you long to check it out if you want to. So what do we do? Okay, right now, and these are proposals, I don't do anything, I'm a private citizen, but we need on an emergency base to get proper speed signs set. Once you get to the furniture store, going north, there's maybe 4 or 5 signs in the town. But we've got to get signs up right now on an emergency basis, and whoever raises hell with the DOT, please do it. The Blowing Rock sign, because you know there really only are 2 gateways to this community, because we're one community. We're not 3 or 4 separate business districts and 10 different residential districts. This is the community of Blowing Rock. So what we need, and we have, I know, on the southbound side, and I can't honestly say I know what's on the northbound side, but we need that beautiful entry sign we have on the northbound by me to be, if you obviously haven't seen it with all the construction, but now that the construction's winding down, it hasn't been maintained for the summer. So that needs to have all the weeds pulled out of it, and it needs to have flowers planted before we miss the planting season, because there always were flowers there and shrubs and everything else. That needs to be cleaned up and lighted. That's the Blowing Rock entry, the entry point to the village, or the gateway, and the only gateway. There's only one historic district in Blowing Rock, in the town of Blowing Rock. That's the Green Park Historic District. It's on the National Historic Register as a historic district. And there are 12 historic houses in that district and 1 historic hotel, which itself is independently listed on the National Historic Register. So we have to address this community as a whole and have our true gateway be the gateway to the 2 gateways to this town. So let's clean up the sign, the Blowing Rock sign, and let's then have made a welcome to Blowing Rock or town of Blowing Rock speed limit 35 miles an hour strictly enforced. Again, I don't know if we can do that in the town or if we have to get the DOT to do it. But what I'm suggesting is we have the entry sign and then a nice board sign saying Town of Blowing Rock, speed limit 35 miles an hour strictly enforced. And of course, the same thing on the southbound side, going into town. I'm not just speaking self-interest here. Then we get to Green Hill Road, and what we have somewhere being stored and hopefully fixed the National Historic District signs for Green Park, the town of Green Park. They're here, we're going to put those back. But I'd like to get a second bite of the apple on the speed issue, because if you come into a National Historic Register district, it's fair for that district to say to people when they drive, speed limit 35 miles an hour strictly Because now someone will say, well, hey, this is a historic district, I get it. So let's put it, whatever we have to do to get it, let's put a 35-mile-an-hour strictly enforced speed limit for the historic district. And then that, again, is a second bite of the apple to drive home the point that, hey, Blowing Rock means business. They're going to enforce this thing. Then we need, the same exact situation happened in the community where I have my summer house. The state decided that a route that was 2 lanes going through a resort summer town community, much like Blowing Rock, they decided that we needed to make that 4 lanes instead of 2 so that people could get out to Montauk Point more easily. So they said, don't worry, we'll do it, but we're going to have 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. Even though it's 4 lanes, we're going to make it 35 miles an hour, don't worry. And what they did, and what I would suggest we go after the DOT to do, is they wrote right on the pavement in letters 8 feet high, 35 miles per hour, right in the lane. And they put a billboard, which I don't suggest for Blowing Rock, they put a life-size billboard of a police car with a policeman standing by it with a radar gun. And it was interesting, but people really went 35 for about 2 years, and then they kind of started creeping up again, so now they're up to about 45. But that's all enforcement. When I was a prosecuting attorney, among other things, I was responsible for trying 250,000 traffic cases a year. And you know, it's not that hard. You bring them through, you offer them a plea bargain, you take the fine. The fine goes, I believe, speaking of the improvements to the school, I believe the fines for traffic violations go to the State Department of Education. It'd be nice if they went to Blowing Rock. I don't know if we pass, Alan, a Blowing Rock speed limit, which I suspect could be lower than the same or lower than the state speed limit, which is 35. But if we could pass a Blowing Rock town speed ordinance and make it 35, then could we keep the money, or would we have to turn it over to the Department of Education? Again, I don't know the answer to that, and that's probably not a priority. Because I don't care, as long as it's being enforced and you're writing the tickets, you know, I don't think anyone's going to complain that they don't want to send money to the Department of Education. So then how do we enforce it? Well, is there or is there not a secret code or a semi-public code that we don't want to enforce our speed limits in the town? And unless anyone can assure me absolutely not, that's not happening, I think this board should look into that and get a definitive answer. Is there some sub rosa or under the table agreement to back off on enforcement of speed? And if you want to do that, fine, just don't tell anybody, keep it going, but do it in the town, you know, and do it on the side streets, don't do it on 321. That has to be enforced, and we need an enforcement plan. So the first thing you have to determine is anything going on here where speed isn't being enforced? And then the town should decide, the board should decide if you really want to do that and what kind of guidelines you should give for lenience. But we can't have tolerance of speeding over 35 on 321 because someone's going to get hurt, and someone did get hurt today. And for that, you have to have the police department. We have a very good police department. They're very well supervised, and they have to be trained. They should be able to identify speed by eye. There are schools the state runs, I'm sure, that train them at speed detection by eye, and they're very good at it because they use a gun to judge the speed guess. And here our speed gun is broken and out for repair. I mean,
Our sign.
That was a sign.
the sign.
Speed sign.
Yeah, well, we need the sign, we need the gun working, we gotta use it, we gotta write the tickets, and we gotta get that flashing sign going where they show their speed. And these last things I've said, I will end with, and I can send them to you in writing, in an email, so that you'll have them to decide. I don't want to take any more time tonight, it's late enough. But I really think we have to acknowledge, you as a board have to acknowledge, that you're playing with fire of being a speed trap or a death trap, and I'll take speed trap any day, because there's nothing wrong with it if you're trying to control speed for the people who are doing the speeding to be scared to death that they're gonna get a ticket in Blowing Rock. I mean, I don't see, if that's what a speed trap is, then call me a speed trap. How am I hurt by that? Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? You have anything else? We stand adjourned. Have a good evening.